Welcome to Subramani. Please increase the number of subscribers. Press the bell icon. Right? I don't even know what all to say. So, but please increase it because I'm being accused of not saying it often enough. I'm going to make this video on the completion of 9 years of Modi rule. And so let us start with the achievements and the failures. The achievement in my head is very clear. Is the jam, that is the ability to reach out to so many people, right? With your Jan Dhan, your Aadhaar, and your mobile, which means look at this achievement this way, that somebody like Manmohan Singh has been associated with Indian banking for about 50 years plus, right? He was finance secretary, he was RBI governor, but he was very clear that he was not so keen to expand the banking, because I have met RBI officers who say, oh, if we increase the number of banks, our work will go up. That is a typical bureaucratic way of thinking. But Mr. Modi did not think like that. He said, no, everybody should have a bank account. They pushed and forced the banks to open a bank account there. So in a way, you should be happy that privatization of banks didn't happen, because private banks could not have been pushed the way you could have pushed PSU banks. So whether it was an SBI, Bank of Baroda, whoever, everybody was pushed to open bank accounts, and that I think was a huge success, because money goes down to the person who must get it, and it gets credited to his bank account without any leakage. So I think that is one big thing, because in 70-75 years we could never find one way of reaching money to the right person without any discounts or commissions in between. In that also led perhaps to UPI, Bheem Pay, etc., and that I think is a marvel. I have seen people coming from US, coming from Australia, coming from France, and wondering how could somebody do such a great job, and that I think is a fantastic achievement. So I think even for good banking, we should not look west, we should look east, because maybe China Japan, Indonesia, maybe they have better banking than the West has. So that jam has to be the number one thing. That obviously means economy related, and I want to spend some time on economy related, because the infrastructure, which is both, like I said, JAM and UPI, which is the digital infrastructure, and the physical infrastructure. It is easy to dismiss that physical infrastructure happened on its own, but it takes somebody like the PM to sit on those committees and push. Look at the Sansad work which has happened, 2 years, 1200 crores. It must have been, somebody must have been breathing down their neck every day to make sure it happens, right? No delays. In 2 years to start and complete a project. Of course, it was conceived of by the Congress, but to think of being able to execute it in 2 years, I think it's a fantastic achievement. So infrastructure there, and then making sure that chief ministers like Yogi and maybe Fadnavis are not hampered in creating infrastructure, because if 100 years later, if somebody was to remember one word of the Modi era, for 9 years, 14 years, 18 years, I don't know, but if somebody is to remember that has got to, one word for it would be infrastructure. The number of airports created, the Vande Bharat trains, nothing, you can't take away anything from the fact that they've created a huge amount of infrastructure, and found that people are willing to pay a premium for Vande Bharat trains, and made sure that the airfares from Bangalore to Chennai have fallen thanks to Vande Bharat trains, right? So you see this kind of thing happening. So amazing infrastructure, there is no doubt about the infrastructure, and the fact that somebody sat there and pushed it, because the way infrastructure was being handled by people like the UPA was terrible compared to what this government has achieved. Part of the economic thing is also the coal privatization. People are just forgetting how much of coal privatization has happened, what has happened, and the success of PSUs, right? So the shares which, the BHEL, the listing of LIC, the privatization of Air India, the successful listing of Coal India, or getting enough work for Coal India to do, slowly maybe privatize the coal mines, we don't know. So if you see the performance of the PSU companies, PSU banks has been very good. So somewhere you have to give credit to the fact that maybe the the governmental interference in management was not there. For whatever reasons, those have been definitely great achievements. The banking reforms, reduction of NPAs, kicking the butt of people like SR and taking away the companies, right? So all those things cannot be just ridiculed and said, oh, this is nothing. Of course, a lot of things have to be achieved. We'll talk about that also. Definitely lot more things can be achieved, could have been achieved perhaps, but all these reforms have not been bad at all. One more thing which I would give credit to Modi, which is more to Mr. Modi than to the BJP, is he gave optimism. The way he speaks, the way he stands, everything is doing well, and he goes out of the country and connects with the diaspora. 20,000 people turning up in Australia, 30,000 people turning up in US, hiring the biggest stadiums and meeting them, addressing them. That's been fantastic. I mean, you speak to the NRIs and they feel very positive. Of course, on the flip side, many Indians want to go abroad desperately. They would spend 50 lakhs to get a PR in New Zealand. But yeah, there are the positive side is the way he has handled the Indians abroad, right? One more thing which I like about him is he's ignored the agents in between. The Rajdeep Sardesais and Barkadats he didn't need. He connected with the people directly. Whether you heard Man Ki Baat, did not hear Man Ki Baat, whether you read his tweets, did not read his tweets, whether you think his IT cell is overworking on over-enthusiasm, it doesn't matter. He has made it very clear, like many industrialists have, they don't need an agent in between who will cloud things, right? So ignoring the critics has been another fantastic thing, and ignoring journalists to me has been just fantastic. Of course, many of you may not agree with that, but to me that has been one great achievement. Another super achievement I would call is the handling of COVID. Compared to other countries, Europe couldn't handle it so well, UK couldn't handle it so well as part of Europe. US handling was a disaster. So standing tall, ignoring Pfizer and all those people and saying, no, we will develop our own vaccine, having confidence in that, and at the same time being happy to share that prosperity with others, unlike countries like US, which was taking away other people's medicine, storing it and hoarding it and losing it because of expiry. I mean, we handled COVID. I think Modi should get credit. And the whole medical infrastructure in India handled it much better than most other countries. So that I think is a great achievement. Foreign policy, first with Sushma Swaraj and then with Jaishankar, I think that is very well handled. Though some people may feel that Jaishankar is being very brazen, but I think he's doing a good job. Similarly, another important thing for me is the abolition of Section 370, because no other government would have been able to do it. Congress would never have done it because they think 370 is a great achievement. Why 370 is wrong or was wrong is simple, because it allowed a few families to make all the money, and the local guy could not get a job there, so all that was bad. I'm not saying everything has been achieved, but removing it from the books has been a good achievement. There is still that is just the beginning, right? So a lot more has to be done. But I'm also going to talk about the lack of things which they could have done better. Starting the work in Ram Janmabhoomi in Ayodhya has been a great achievement. Remember, this is not a 10-year-old dispute, it's a 500-year-old dispute, right? So at least 300 to 400-year-old dispute, and that has been sorted out and work has started. I mean, a lot of credit perhaps to Subramaniam Swamy, Vishwa Hindu Parishad, Supreme Court. But to stand there, start the work and complete the work, I think they should be able to complete it before the general election. So that has been one good achievement. Handling the economy, we've already covered. Encouraging wealth creation. See, one good thing that I liked about this government is they did not criticize the private sector. They did not say, oh, ye sab chor hai, and things like that, and then in private go and take money from them. They celebrated. In fact, there are many times when he said, oh, these are the wealth creators, these are the job creators. But at the ministry level, I do not know how much has been followed up, but at least he made those right noises. And of course, things like toilet and making sure that har nal mein jal, and that kind of a thing, and reaching out to the bottom of the pyramid. So if you ask me who should be happiest with this government, it's not the middle class, it is not the upper class, it is definitely people at the bottom of the pyramid, and perhaps that is his vote bank, and very beautifully addressed. Has he addressed the middle class enough? Well, that is part of the criticism, right? So I like the way he handled the CAA. Though I would have, again, it's part of the criticism also, because CAA, farm laws, land reforms, he claimed that he was a very brave government, that he would do it, but Congress could easily derail all these things, including farm laws, which was part of their own manifesto. So for whatever reasons, but they stalled it and it never came through. CAA never came through, or effectively, even though the law has been passed, it has not really come through. Let me look at where the government failed, and I'm quite surprised that they failed, because or I do not know what is the vested interest. One is freeing of temples. It would have made a lot of Hindus happy, and I don't think anybody else is objecting to that. I don't think the Muslims are saying, oh, you should not free temples, or Christians are saying that. Nobody is saying that. So why is it not happening? I am not able to understand. And one thing I'll tell you, after meeting very senior government officials, is to say, you do not know what were our options, right? So I do not know what forced him not to do it. When Madhya Pradesh has just started by saying, okay, temples will be free. It is a very low-hanging fruit to please the Hindus. They could have done it, because nobody else is objecting to it. So nobody is saying don't do it. Why temples have not been freed, I don't know. Taxation has always hurt the middle class, but I'm also convinced that if I am in the top 1% of the country, I will pay more tax than the other 99%. That is no doubt about that. So yeah, we'll suffer, but yes, taxation has been more and more regressive, I would think, because everything is being brought under the net at higher rates. I mean, 10% taxation in equity without indexation is almost a crime. At least give me an option of saying 15% tax with indexation. Do something, because if inflation is high, like it has been in the last 15-18 months, my capital gains will be high, and being 10% tax in a country where inflation is 8% or 9% is ridiculously high. So that is not something which I like, and not something which I've liked. You will push a lot of the money down into the economy, in the sense that you will push the money down into the black money. So will it happen? Yes, it is bound to happen, because people won't pay taxes just because you want people to pay taxes. They will try to avoid taxes, and they will do everything possible to do that. Another thing where I am not very happy with the way it has been handled is the foreign media. One day you say you don't care because New York Times doesn't have any reach, Washington Post doesn't have any reach, but the day they say something good about you, you go to town saying, look, New York Times is ignore New York Times, ignore Washington Post, it doesn't matter. I tell this to mutual funds also, ignore the media in this country. Maybe 10 lakhs of people, 12 lakhs of people watch it. The country has got 134 crores people to sell to, right? So I am not very happy the way it has been handled, but then he has handled it that way. I am also not happy with the law and order, the way the law and order has been handled, especially in states where Modi is not in ruling, or BJP is not ruling. That's not a very great way how things have been handled.